that point, you are a slave. And because you can see them coming, you should say no. Say no right now. Stop.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? Where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
Vietnam has closed 86 million bank accounts. They have frozen them, seized the assets, but they've closed the accounts. And that's 43% of all the accounts. There's around 200 million in Vietnam.
And that is why today I am announcing this government will make a new free of charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID. It's as simple as that.
Tyrannical situation where there's only 2 clicks left when you are required to have digital ID to move around and have a life, and when cashless central bank digital currencies are the only way you can buy and sell. At that point, you've lost your freedom. If you follow the breadcrumbs to 2030, anyone can look up the UN 2030 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. By 2030, Britain specifically will have no commercial passenger aircraft leaving the country. You will not be able to leave. There will be no ships leaving the country. You will not own private transport. You will have a digital ID to do everything, and you will only have electronic money with which to transact. I would say at that point you are a slave, and because you can see them coming, you should say no. Say no right now.
Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Waharakah HaKodash. That's the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit in whom we praise. Double honors to our apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone who rule well over the flock of Israel. Shalom and salutations to you, Akim, out here pushing the words of truth in sincerity. Shalom to all the Lord's elect Akim and Akwathim, scattered Israelites and Israelite foreigners. Abaratazah. This video is edifying. Amrapah Ma. What we have going on right now in this time in history is a complete overriding of the system. All right. They started with the minds. They started really manipulating and washing or whitewashing, and really altogether they started to like divest education. What's the word for it? Simplify, stupidify, dumb down society. That's the word. They dumb down society, man. If you take some of these statistics of reading, if you take the statistics of intelligence, all of it's been going down, and social media just catapulted that mission. It was the number one thing that allowed for people to become more dumbed down. Whereas now, picking up a book is like an odd thing. But the average thing is to jump on your phone and start clicking and clacking and watch other people's lives as your life goes by. Very different time. And it excelled the dumbing down of this society. So now, what do you have left? You have a bunch of social media addicts. You have a bunch of, people that is trying to live their best lives by watching your life. A whole lot of weaklings, weak-minded people. The saying, strong men create easy times create weak men create hard times. So we always constantly at Great Millstone reiterate that saying, because we're in a time of the weak men and the hard times. And this is just the beginning of troubles and sorrows, is what the scripture said about this time. Yeah, the end times, this time we're in right now, is the most heavily prophesied time through our history. So it's only a matter of time. I mean, the scriptures even say, woe unto a woman that, a child that gives suck in those days. It'll be even worse for a pregnant woman, let alone for your average U.S. citizen who has to go through a CBDC or have to get a physical mark, which basically signs you over to Satan. It permanently signs you over to evil, on the side of evil, and it makes you a slave to the wicked. All right, that mark goes back to that digital awe, going back to the ancient style of servitude. Let's grab that real quick. Yeah, and when you even go and take a look at what The interlinear, the Strong's Concordance have to say about the word charagma and charax. In particular, I believe charax, which is the root word of charagma, which means stake or palisade. It goes into a physical mark, a badge, but also a forget what they call that. The saying, a stamp. What they put on I'll get it. But what they put on like cattle, a brand, ancient Roman style branding principles. It's not just a with a hot iron. It's also a mark, like a actual letters or image carved into your skin. So it would deal more of a carving, but its purpose served. If somebody saw you with that mark, they knew you belonged to this royal house. You were a slave of the house of, let's say, Spartacus. So you're a slave of the house of Marcus, you see? And that's how that mark and that awe and that branding began in the Roman Empire, but it started much longer earlier than that. And I'm trying to find where I could find the word all in the KJV. I must be spelling it wrong. Let's see if I could get this all. It must be with an O sound, A-U-L. Okay, so it's spelled sometimes with an A-U-L. So we're dealing with Exodus 21. And it's all relevant, especially for the information that was just brought out in that video, right? Which this man, Vietnam, as you can see indicated on the screen, Vietnam has just shut down all of these different bank accounts to try to push in and move in for this digital all. So let's get it real quick. Let me just read the AI overview. I'm going to take a leap of faith. In the King James Version, the Bible, all, sometimes spelled A-U-L, is a tool used to pierce a willing servant's ear as a sign of permanent and voluntary servitude. That's it. IQ. Permanent involuntary servitude. But involuntary is what we're getting into, because when you deal with Revelations 16, 13 and 16 on down, where you get the mark of the beast. Also, it's referenced later on in Revelations throughout various chapters. And it's also, it's condemned, and the judgment is given in Revelations 14 chapter. But in Revelations 13, when you're dealing with the MOTB and the mark, it tells you that he causeth all, and that he's this beast system that's enabled now through NATO, EU, in America. So the causality of it all, and you have bankers, these EU, NATO bankers, because all the bankers are European. And so-called Europeans, Edomites, the world elites. And so when they push these other countries like Vietnam to mandate in their countries, that's a causing. So that beast again is going to mandate all small and great, rich and poor, free and bound to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Right? And so that deals with everybody, all citizens. This is a world event. This is why there was an agenda. The word agenda is a Greek word that means to do. To do. It's like a to-do list. And Agenda 2030 states that, as the man was saying, that there will be no more driving cars. You'll not have your own personal transportation. Agenda 2030 says no more passenger flights to and from England. Right? And this is dealing with English, the English version of Agenda 2030. America has its own version. And these are just plans of the elites to bring in and usher in this permanent digital all scenario. Which I'll put this on the screen as well. You should be reading it. It says, the ritual and symbolism are described in the Old Testament books of Exodus and Deuteronomy. spiritual references, the most notable references are in the context of the Hebrew servants. Exodus 21:5 and 6. And if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door and unto the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, AUL, and he shall serve him forever. Deuteronomy 15:16 and 17. And it shall be, if he say unto thee, I will not go away from thee, because he loveth thee in thine house, because he is well with thee, then thou shalt take an awl, and thrust it through his ear unto the door, and he shall be thy servant forever. And also unto thy maidservant thou shalt do likewise. So when you take this digital awl, you're saying to Esau, I made the choice that I love you. I love you, Esau, right? That's what everyone who makes that choice is going to say. And it's public. The awl was a public act. So it was a ritual piercing, but it symbolized a voluntary commitment, and says a deep involuntary commitment. So the ritual symbology and symbol of a deep involuntary commitment will be had in our lifetimes with this digital awl, which is a physical microchip that will be implanted as a permanent sign of loyalty and affection for your master and his household. Your master is Esau, Edom. This society, even though it's fallen and will fall, you are making a last-ditch effort to please and give affection and show your sign of loyalty as a permanent slave by publicly receiving a mark which opts you out of your freedom. It also opts you out of salvation permanently due to Revelations, the 14th chapter. So you won't be able to take this mark and still love the Lord. You'll choose who you love. And you have to make a choice, which means a choice between one or the other. You can't have both. And in getting that mark, you show now that you promise to be obedient to everything that Esau does. And if you are not obedient to all of his laws and his statutes, once you take that mark, he can now just shut your mark off, which means you now, even though you've had this mark, you've been pierced, right? You've shown yourself as a disloyal servant now. And now you have to be as if you were unmarked. You know, in the life of the unmarked is that they cannot buy or sell. We will have to rely fully on the miracles of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua these last days to be performed, because we have not opted in to Esau's system, right? We have now, and the only option is, you know, when you don't opt into his system, basically, you now have to fend for yourself outside of the grid, outside of his monetary system, right? Because you are no longer a servant that he has to take care of. When the master, when the servant chooses to be a permanent slave to his master, and he shows that he loves him by taking that awl, the master's job was to take care of the servant, his family, and his household. The servant is now a fixated part of the master's household. And that's what the servant's allegiance to the master was. And that symbolic striking of that awl through the air to the doorpost is what fixated or made him a slave. So without that making of a slave, without that doorpost ritual, that all being driven through the air, he was never going to be a lifelong servant. He would have to leave, and leave his family though, and leave the house and fend for himself. So ultimately, this all goes back to the belief that If you believe truly in Yahweh Shem Yahushua and the miracles, then you believe that you can fend for yourself. If you're brainwashed into thinking that you need some type of extravagant lifestyle, and you cannot get this extravagant lifestyle except you have a digital all, you're going to take the all. Simply put. And guess what? When you take the all, you're not going to have these aughts with somebody, this guy and that guy. Y'all all going to be slaves. Esau's not going to allow his slaves to fight each other. Right now, he makes you fight because he needs you to be dependent on him. He needs you to be unfair. He makes you fight. All right, he causes you guys to turn against each other. All right, he sets up standards so that, the light versus the dark, men versus women, right versus the left. It's called order ab chaos. In order to bring in this digital all, he needs for you to say, no, I don't care about freedom anymore. I want to be a servant. I want to be in the master's house. I love my master, Esau. And I promise to do whatever he says forever so that I can live happily, right? That's what's coming. There ain't gonna be no Bloods and Crips, gang banging, shootouts in Esau's digital all society. You're not gonna own guns, silly boy. You're not gonna own weapons. The Second Amendment is not gonna go hand in hand with Esau's digital all agenda, right? You won't even get to leave your 15-minute city, boy. Freedom is gone. You had the freedom to. You're opting out of freedom. You're opting out of owning weapons, owning land. You shall own nothing and be happy. You don't own nothing no more, boy. You don't even own your children. The master owns your children. You're in the master's house. And you have all the proof that you will serve him forever. That's what the KJV says in Exodus 21. Then his master shall bring him unto the judges. He shall also bring him to the door and unto the doorpost. And his master shall bore his ear through with an awl. And he shall serve him forever. You don't get to run away from that bondage, boy. So the fact that you were willing to take that mark, and you had whatever reason you needed. I need his protection. How am I going to eat without him? You saw that woman at the food stamp line. She would have took the all right then and there. That's exactly where Esau wants you. He got you where he wants you. You're ready to serve. Otherwise, the only option would be that you have to believe in the higher power. That he would come and send his son again to deliver you. And that you'd rather die than to be a servant of Satan. Because let's not be confused. The people that are setting this digital all system, this mark of the beast up, the people of the beast, the beast itself is an evil entity. It's just evil. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. Everything concerning Yahushua's return is that he can establish righteousness and blot out iniquity forever. So that means when Yahushua returns, evil is on the scene, right? The righteous, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. The people are in a constant state of mourning. The righteous are vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. We hear about Esau's long plan of marking you and your children and your neighbors and your cousins and your family members, and no one talks about it because he's got everybody in this permanent state of defeatism and dumbed down, man. They're more interested in what label their celebrities are wearing. Or just interested in just getting some behind, man. Jake ain't worried about nothing but getting some tail. So they got you right where they want you. Do you see now? Next up is your freedom being taken away and you having to be a permanent slave by you taking Esau's digital all. That's next up. Abarat Dazad, this video is edifying. And until next time, Shalom.